recording. Great. And then, Vanessa, do you want to start with roll call?
Sure can. Anita Chan.
Present.
Bilal Key.
Present.
Diane. Oh, hello. Diane Song Yu. Gil Lopez. Janet. Jasmine. Jennifer.
Present.
Jenny.
Present.
Angela Moore. Husband Servino. Rachel.
Hi, I'm here.
Richard. Ruth. Susan Latham.
Here.
Toby Shepherd Block. Community Board 1, Antonella Di Severio. Community Board 2,
Here.
Laura, right? Yeah. Great. Community Board 3. Community Board 4. Community Board 5. Community Board 6. Community Board 7. And Community Board 8. I heard you
Here.
say hello. Hello.
Hi.
Community Board 9 or Community Board 10. Community Board 11. Community Board 12.
Here, present.
Community Board 13. Community Board 14. Organizational rep from Cures, Mary. LIC partnership, Charles. Mr. T Carding, Adam.
Here.
NYC H2O, Brian. Queen's Botanical Garden. Queen's Chamber of Commerce. Queens County Farm Museum. Sutton Boulevard bid. Oh, hi Gil, I see you in the chat. Tully Environmental. Waste Management. Did anybody join late in this roll call? There we go. Andrea joined us. Yep.
Oh, I'm trying to send her a link. Don't know why registration is not this might.
Oh, I see Andrea and Carol Maholsky are both here. That completes roll call.
Great.
Well-
Perfect. Do we have a quorum or are we?
We do not have quorum.
So we'll keep an eye out for folks joining before we turn to approving minutes or other things. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. The first item on our agenda is an update from DSMY on curbside composting and how it's been going. And I think I saw Andrew join, who will be presenting.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes.
So, hi everyone. Andrew Hoyles here. I'm only able to do video right now. I foolishly left my device at work, so I'm on my personal phone, and so I hopefully I can just speak out, and as much time as I have, I'll hopefully be able to answer questions and speak to the program where it's been going. So we're in the 4th week of curbside composting service in Queens. It's been an exciting launch of the service for over 2.4 million New Yorkers in Queens. The program really is to get the yard waste, food scraps, and food sold paper out of the landfill and get divert that for energy and also for compost, as well as to mitigate rodents and pests from tearing open the black trash bags and making a mess. And I think we're starting off with that successfully, and that message has really hit hard. As a lot of New Yorkers are witnessing during this past few years, an increase in trash and rodent sightings and things like that in their neighborhoods. So we feel like the program's been a success thus far, or at least we're excited that we have the offering of the world's largest curbside composting program. Just in that alone, that's a success. There's still lots and lots of ways to go, so definitely no one at the department's resting on their laurels with that, but access is really big and important, and so we've provided the access to many residents in the city of New York. I had a few questions that I just found out about the meeting actually earlier this week, and so I knew that there were a couple of questions relating to some of the stats around the program, and one of those big stats is tonnage and how much collection has happened. And the hard thing is right now is we're still very early in the program, right? We're not even one full calendar month through of collecting service, and the department, we do not publish aggregate data on any other time frame than the monthly report out, right? So at this time, I'm not able to share out this is how much has been collected and diverted from landfill or incineration by district, but the department will provide that information. We just need to get through a month of service. The department publishes for all 59 districts. We post the diversion information to our website, and it's also available on Open Data, which we have the link, NYC Open Data, which we have the link on our webpage. But the first month we don't have published anywhere. On last Monday, we did have a social media post. I think that was our little teaser that's out there, and it was the Austin Powers movie meme or whatever around 1 million pounds had been diverted, or 500 tons. The department works in tonnage. So, that was very preliminary. That was, 2.5 weeks into the collection service. But that we're seeing that as a success. We're seeing that as early and exciting. And we're seeing also this is the beginning of the fall when, leaves are coming down, and we're collecting leaves both from residents. We're also working with the Parks Department to collect their leaves in all their parks. We're working with, many different institutions to try to collect and divert their materials. So I'm hoping to see that number grow, and we'll also just, wait to share real numbers for you and not instigate anything once the department actually publishes that information. If you were to go onto like open data because you couldn't wait, you wouldn't see a full month of October's data reported because we just don't have that recorded at this moment. The questions that are popping up, unfortunately, I'm not seeing them. So how about I run through the other two questions that I have on my docket that I want to address, and then is that okay, Brian? Is that cool? And then you can kind of like read them
that
out.
sounds perfect.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
and
Thank you.
I'll keep track of questions in the chat for folks if you want to put them in there, and we'll get to those after.
So yeah, so be on the lookout, and certainly you all can we can look at, you can invite me or someone from the Bureau of Community Affairs back for next month or the month after and kind of look more specifically at the data once we have it published. But that's just what I wanted to name on that point. One of the other metrics that I had here, I know there was an interest in the bins themselves, the brown bins that we did distribute for folks who were curious or who weren't in the know. We had a sign-up form to get a free brown bin delivered to your address. The form opened on August 8th. That was when the press announcement for the program started, and the form closed officially on October 17th, actually on Sunday, October 17th. And the form was effectively for all 1 to 9 unit households. Anybody who lived in a 1 to 9 unit household where we would collect could put their information in there. We would dispatch a bin to their address. All high rises in that the department, we considered a high rise a building with 10 or more units. It could have 10 units, it could have 50 units, it could have 5,000 units. We don't care. We call them high rises. And why is that? Well, because we consider those being that at that point, you have staff or some other party managing the waste at those buildings. We automatically delivered a bin to those addresses. So they didn't have the opportunity to sign up to get a bin. We just automatically gave them what we call the starter bin. We delivered those to everyone. In total, over the month and change, 2 months or so approximately, we delivered over 44,000 brown bins, 44,126. And I didn't bring the aggregate numbers because I didn't want that to be like a. We can send it if we get the the question, but the point is what we saw. We definitely saw that there was a uptick in bin requests from residents all over all 14 community boards of the borough. But we certainly, where did we see the most was in the community boards that didn't previously have curbside composting service. And I think that clearly makes sense because they didn't receive bins during a previous rollout. So that was where we saw that very high in Queens 12 and in Queens 1, Queens 3, 4, 6. We saw those, pretty high comparatively. But that to me makes total sense, right? Like we did the door-to-door delivery of brown bins to those addresses in the past participating districts, and we did not in these districts. So we are still, as far as bins go, I know last month when I was on, there was a question about, hey, I didn't get my bin. We're still trying to figure that out. The desire of our commissioner right now is, we're really trying to make sure that folks are aware that they can use their own bin, right? That we got out of the kind of troublesome dynamic of like, if you don't have our brown bin, then you cannot participate. And we're really trying to drill that home, that if you have a bin that has a secure attaching lid, you can go to nyc.gov/composting bin decal and request one of the composting bin decals and put it on that bin of your own and participate. You can put your leaves in there, you can put your food scraps in there. We'll allow that. So you don't necessarily need our brown bin. Our brown bin is certainly the look of the program, but you can empower yourself or your neighbors who are maybe on the vacation for those 2 months. They can still get that when there's new people moving into the neighborhood who maybe didn't know about this and they just got that home and they couldn't sign up for it, they can still use their own bin and participate in the program. And also we'll take leaves and yard waste in any bag, they can put at the curb. It's as long as it's separate from their trash. That's also the reason why for a lot of high-rise building dwellers, I've been getting the question a lot. Well, I live in a building with 5,000 units. How many bins are you going to go? And if you're getting one bin, you got one bin from the department, and we gave that same one bin to somebody with 10 units. And that decision is really because these are starter bins. The department can't give, we're just not able to spend the budget that the agency gets on brown bins alone. We also have the service that we have to deliver as well. We still are conducting a couple of brown bin distribution events as well. So go to our Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter page, go to the NYC sanitation page, and you'll see some of those coming up. Borough President Richards has an event with us. Is running the event on this Saturday. So you can check those out. Definitely go there and see some of the upcoming events that we have. And I can follow up also after this meeting just tomorrow morning. I'm back in the office with the full list of events if that's helpful to share out with people. And that's really like the sort of tying this to the last question that I had in front of me was really, how are we supposed to be helping out with the information and making sure there's uptake and participation and just awareness. And I think social media is huge, sharing the outreach materials that we have in both networks, in your personal and professional networks, but also invite us to things, definitely work with us on bin distributions, either with your, with an organizationally, I mean, with your community board, with your organization, work with us on kitchen container distributions, work with us on trainings for your building staff or building supers. We definitely are interested in all of that for the type of work that it really is. And also presentations to tenant associations, co-op boards, and condo associations. I know that I've certainly in my time have had to go to meet with a team of building dwellers who aren't on the same page with how to participate in composting. And I don't want to say we're going to be mediators because that seems like a funny dynamic to be in, but we certainly are able to bring the facts about how to participate in the program and how there's the best management practices to such groups who are maybe in a little bit of disagreement. And we want to be there. We have an outreach team, the Big Reuse Outreach Associates, who are in the field constantly working with the public. And also I work with a small team at the Bureau of Recycling and Sustainability, who's able to, assist with those type of outreach events as well. So how do you do that? Well, easiest is probably email me or whoever you've been in touch with at the Bureau of Community Affairs. But, for folks who joined late, my name is Andrew Hoyles. I'm the senior manager for composting outreach and education at the department. My email is ahoyles, AHOYLES @dsny.nyc.gov. I think that's one real easy way to try to work on something. Also, we have an event participation request form on our website. So you don't have to shoot me an email. You can just, go through the form and it will eventually end up to somebody on my team and we can figure it out that way. So I think that's the work that we're going to be in for the next, forever, right? We start these programs and then it's like, all right, now we're done, right? And it's like, no, the work's just getting started. We gotta make this just like with recycling, just like with any type of waste diversion, right? There's a lot on the legislative side. There's a lot on the public participation side. There's the work we need. Where I focus on is the work in the buy-in and participation in the program and in the methods that I'm able to have at my control. So that's what I would ask the SWAB, definitely. And also, be part of a session. I know that I'm probably running out of my time here, but it's probably be a part of a session of brainstorming and looking into other ways how we can meet people and talk to people and get them to participate. Always open for that too. I'm not saying I have all the answers, certainly not trying to say that, but being open to that dialogue, certainly.
Yeah, no, that's all very helpful. And we'll make sure to send out some of the information you're talking about for that forms and what's online. Going through some of the questions in the chat here. So basically what we're looking at is we'll have October, November, and December before the pause. Do you have a sense of how data will be evaluated for like program success and like picking up back in the spring? Like the question was just, is there enough data through December to start to gauge how successful the program's performing?
Yeah, I think there'll be enough data because the data that Department of Sanitation uses on programs with its trucks are, you know, how much was collected per truck and was that cost, you know, appropriate. So like a, you know, tons per truck shift basically is this value that once we actually have published data, then there's also the published data on like how much that costs, and that'll be enough. That's how the department evaluates all of its programs, really. That it collects at the curb via truck. So certainly, and I just feel like just to note like the final Friday of December, that 23rd date, that's the last, I believe, collection day that we'll be having for the fall version of the program, and we'll be restarting at towards the end of March. But you know, I believe the commissioner wants to go big with these programs. You know, I don't think that. I think we should be working towards like getting folks to participate, but I think access is another metric of success of a program, and I think that that's one of the areas where we're also trying to be evaluated upon, like provide the access, right? Like I keep saying this, not to be, you know, a dead horse, but we remember opt-in, right, where like access has been really hard with that program, and so we don't have that issue as much now, right? Like we still know that building supers are a tough nut to crack, but it is different when you actually have the tools and the service to participate, right? So access is a big hurdle that I think we've overcome, and that's one of the evaluations that we'll be looking at in addition to tonnage. The amount of material that people have actually put in, how much participation was happening.
Yeah, definitely. There were two specific questions that I saw related to the data, and there might be more coming in. But the first one was just, do you know if the data includes the smart bins or if it's just the curbside pickup?
It should include the curbside pickups because we actually so for the district that the smart bins are in, it should include those values because that's those vehicles would be also servicing the smart bins. Let me follow up with that one, but I'm pretty sure it would on that district level for smart bins in Astoria in Queens 1.
Great. And then we also had someone just checking, is this data broken out by community district?
Yeah, so Department of Sanitation Services are co-terminus with the community board. So Q1, Queens West 1, that's it's Queens Community Board 1, and so on and so forth.
The next question that I have is about NYCHA's involvement, whether residents are included or not. What's the status of that?
Yeah, no, definitely. This has been a big question. I've gotten a lot. Two NYCHA campuses currently are participating. Their names are off the top of my head. I'm missing, and I'm apologies, but I can look it up briefly. But those are the only two developments that are working on the program right now currently. And there's plans for them to participate, but we haven't gotten to that point. You know, my understanding is the departments are both still working on it on an executive level, and we haven't reached a final a final program offering. Essentially, we have the bins. We're saving the bins for the agency. The service will certainly be provided. You know, we're the collection end of it, but for all the developments in the borough, they're not all on a route, or they're not all participating more. They would all be on a route, but that's where we're at as of right now.
And do you know if there are NYCHA residents that are interested, could they also do the decal and put that out individually, or how would that work?
I don't think that would work. And I think that would not work similarly in a privately owned high-rise building that a tenant lives in, because if you don't manage your waste and you never set out your waste at the curb, then you probably aren't going to be aware of the set out location, the collection time, things like that. You probably, if you tried to, you would probably, if we put you in the system, like we're not like trying to snoop through and look at, okay, can you get this decal or not? We're not going to fish you out that way or anything like that. But I don't want to direct somebody into the doing something that might not come to fruition for them. We're really working at it on an agency level because they're the ones who are responsible for the properties, and waste being an extenuation of that property management.
Got it. Totally. Yeah. So then the next kind of group of questions is talking about the bin. So at least for me in particular, like the only comments that I've gotten from folks has not been that it wasn't picked up or that there was any issues there. It's just either waiting for bins, or if they're in a larger building, not seeing that their super building manager is putting the bins out. It sounds like, I guess what would, so individuals is one thing, and we talked about how there are still events where bins are being handed out, people can put decals. If someone is in a larger building, do you have recommendations on what they should do if their building doesn't seem to be participating?
Yeah, so before I get into that one, I just wanted to actually answer the question that was before me on New York City housing, and I pulled it up. I was able to leave it houses located at 139-10 34th Avenue, and then College Point Rehab at 125th-01 22nd Avenue. So those are the two NYCHA complexes in Queens that are currently participating. And so I think this is going to be something that we're going to have to follow up with you all on, because where I sit on the broad residential program of curbside composting, and then we have another agency's lead, and that agency's lead, I believe Kevin O'Sullivan, who also works on smart bins, he's presented to the SWAB before to give those nitty-gritty details. But those are the details I have regarding NYCHA. So as the other two questions, waiting for bins. If folks are waiting for bins, they can certainly try and pick one up at the bin giveaway events. Those are first come, first serve, so I would advise people to try to get there early and get a bin. If that way they can use their own bin, of course, don't want to forget that. But also they can call 311 and say that they're waiting for their bin hasn't been delivered. They put it in, they put the order in, they've been waiting for a few weeks. All of our deliveries should for the most part be completed, so if there's folks who are still waiting for it, to me it makes me think that that there was an issue with the delivery, just given the sheer number. The majority of people will receive their bins, but if there was an issue with your delivery, then we would want to fix that, and so we possibly could do a redelivery or correct that delivery itself. So I would suggest calling 311. That's one way how you can just get on the track record. You can also email me about that. I don't want that to be like, so say like the Queen SWAB sent an email out to 50,000 people. I wouldn't want that to be like, email Andrew if you put in a bin order and you didn't get your bin. I want that to be like go to everyone. We have a pretty cool database system that records everything, and we can look at it against where all the bin deliveries took place. I have a photo database of all the deliveries that took place. Sometimes I look at the photo database and it's like, okay, this address is 123 Main Street, and I see it here on the photo. It says 127 Main Street, and it's a there's an issue there. So I'm want to like make sure people know that we want them to participate. Want to ensure that they get the bin. So if you really think that you put it in order and it was complete, and you just have been waiting and you didn't get it, then I would think that would be solved best by emailing me or calling everyone and putting in the complaint, and then we'll have the track record of it. If you say you have a neighbor and they somehow had a bin show up at their address, and you talk to them and they say didn't order that bin, and you did order a bin and you didn't get it, go ahead and talk to them. I'm asking for a little bit of neighborliness with the 2.5 or 2.4 million Queens residents, just because you could solve some problems that way. The other question's harder. The building super, they don't want to participate. They're giving you a hard time. I really think that we're still in a voluntary program. So just putting that there, right? Voluntary program. There's not a supervisor that's going to go and give a building a ticket or anything like that. We are asking for participation. We have communicated, the benefits of the program. And we actually think and believe that this program is very worthwhile and important, but we can't force or mandate participation, especially in privately managed buildings. My recommendations, however, would be to start with the organizing that tenants have to do to try and get any type of different sort of happening in their buildings. So, if there was a light bulb that was out in the main floor and everybody was stumbling over themselves and they were, not able to see, and some people would try to do something about it. They would maybe talk to their super, they would maybe write the management. They would do what they would need to do to get the light bulb changed. I do think like that's one analogy that I try to use here, because it has to be in the same sort of approach. There's certainly, if we have staff that manage the waste for the building, they have to be on board with this. In the opt-in areas that we work on, we do have an approach to some of these high-rise buildings that don't want to participate, and they call like the building compost volunteer. And this has been a role that in the opt-in districts has been like, hey, me and 3 other people in the building will take on we want to compost. We know you don't want to compost, building super, but we want to, and we know that a lot of people actually are really interested in this. And if you're gonna be so against it, we'll take this on for ourselves. And we at the department will collect what's at the curb. We just kind of put this program together. It's not we're calling it a program here, but we just wanted to like make sure people knew that they can go through this process and talk to their building manager and just get that support or approval more of to participate on that end. And it's worked in a handful of buildings in the opt-in districts to get that building manager sign off. It's committed a group of volunteers to this level of work that they are doing out of their commitment to environmentalism and commitment to composting. But that's not going to work for every building. So I don't want to say that this is not what you have to do. I want to just say that that's been one example. I think if you're in a private co-op, I think this has to be something that's brought to the board and talked on a very formal level. Or if there's any tenant associations too, again, I'm going to bring up, having us come there and talking, having an official departmental person. You can bring someone from the district and talk about how this works. For some sites that had easy packs, they weren't sure how they were going to participate in this. So they got in touch with us. We had the district personnel, a supervisor for the district for that section come. And they talked with the building staff, the janitorial staff, the custodial staff about how this could work for them. And so now they're participating. And it just has been working that way. So it's a hard question because there's not like a silver bullet, especially when you were talking about our high rises are 10 units and our also high rises are 5,000 unit multi-complex dwellings. But I do think it starts with using some of the, one of the things about this program, it requires New Yorkers to kind of share, which I think is pretty wild, because New Yorkers really don't, we share a lot of things, but also like waste is something that I think a lot of people don't think about that we're doing. So we're sharing a bin between neighbors. We also have to share responsibility with committing to participate in this program with the building managers. And in some cases, sharing the workload. That's not going to work for all buildings and all residents, but it is a way that I've seen some success with people getting able to participate.
Great, thank you. Definitely a challenge. Moving on to some specific questions folks asked about ways we can be involved. So we've had a couple people ask, is there any way, and just to back up for a second, so SWAB, we have a lot of different types of members. So some are individuals, but we also have representatives of organizations, and we have someone from each of the community boards. So definitely the potential is there for a lot of different types of events and whatnot. One question, particularly for folks who are putting on events or live in larger buildings, is there any way for folks to get printed copies of flyers to pass out, or if they're having an event where they're tabling, to have it on the table? Is there a way to get flyers?
Yeah, there's a way to get both flyers and kitchen containers and things like that, both through our outreach team to actually go there, but also we can just snail mail flyers. We can't snail mail kitchen containers, but we can snail mail the building tenant flyer, which is like the language and details for all of the ways that a tenant should be responsible for the program and how they should participate, as well as the information for the building supers themselves. And we have these items translated into 11 most commonly spoken languages in New York City. There's also decals that are available to be shipped. And I'll send you the link. Is that the best, Ryan? Is that to send you the link to that after the meeting, like as a follow-up?
Yeah, that would be great. And I can pass that on to folks.
Yeah, nyc.gov/sanitation materials is the actual URL. So you could do that right now, but if you're not going to remember that, or you're not taking notes, or you're multitasking right now, just make sure you get that link.
We got it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Perfect. Yes, and then similarly, so you mentioned before, just to make sure that we have it, there's a form on DSMY's website to request DSMY folks to come out to present on things. Was that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And that one, that shortcut is a little bit more, it's a little funky one, on.nyc.gov/event-request. So I can send that one to you too. And it has the drop down for what type of event you're requesting, a presentation, training, things like that. Great. Yeah, I know we have a few members who are, that's perfect. We have a few members who are in the process of planning some stuff. So that would be really helpful. Yes.
Yeah, Andrew, I just went on because I'm one of the ones that's interested in flyers. So I went on to order, and it's telling me this item is currently not available for your convenience. Download and print. That's what's coming up. So if we want to get a batch of flyers, not use all the ink on our printer. I mean, is there a way for us to just get a batch of flyers?
Yeah, no, that's two things. One, I'm surprised that that's the case. Why it's saying that, I can happily talk to the communications team about, like, are we still not sending? We stopped sending things out during COVID. Back when we were incredibly sensitive about like touching surfaces, and we went to QR codes and everything like that. So we stopped sending large materials out, but that should be changed now. So I'm a little surprised to hear that. I can also send, orders out that way, and I'm happy to, send larger quantities to folks if they have like a large event, they need like 1,000 flyers of each type. I'm more than happy to do that, because or somebody on my team will do it, but that's
Well,
easy to do.
yeah, that would be great. Here's my thing. As I drive around my area, my neighborhood, on garbage day, there aren't a lot of neighbors that have a brown bin out. So, I mean, I know my neighbors, so I actually just want to go around because that one-on-one sometimes can be effective. So that I introduced them to the program. Yeah, we did the door by door, and yeah, we did the mail. But sometimes you just need to talk to your neighbors. So I'd like to have the flyer. I don't need 1,000, but if I could get about 50 to 100,
Yeah, absolutely.
that would be great.
No, that would be great. Easiest for me, just shoot me the email after this. We can
Okay,
do that.
will
So
do.
like the quantity and types and everything like that.
Okay, good.
I'd love to bug you on it, you know.
Thank you.
Great. And I see Reverend Thorpe has her hand raised. If you want to jump off mute, you can.
Yes, I just wanted to add, and I'm sorry I'm popping in and out. I'm running another meeting. In regards to the bins, we just had a conversation with sanitation in regards to that. And they were telling us, number one, that the program is going to be put on hold from January until April. And we also had the conversation, and it'll be back after April because of the snow season, but also that we questioned about the apartment buildings on Jamaica Avenue and them being involved in this composting program. And they basically said that each building would have to individually come together themselves. In some situations, some buildings, the managers are saying no, they don't want to be bothered with having that extra brown bin. So this is truly something that the community in these buildings have to get together and lobby for. So this is a discussion we've already had. Thank you.
Thank you. Following up on some more of how SWAB can be involved. So we had someone asked, so there's the list of events where brown bins will be at. So those are ongoing. Is that a set list, or if folks have the capacity to organize events, whether it's with their org or community board or an elected official, are people able to organize more events that have bins at them?
Yeah, I believe so. All the events have been through elected officials' offices. I would think that could be an extension of the SWAB and community boards. I don't want to, say that civic association would have the same sort of leverage in that regard as the elected official but I do think, certainly just if you're considering it, ask and we'll see if it can happen or not. I think it would, we're at my purview of the program, but I don't want to make a promise that we can't keep right now, but I would believe so, certainly for the community boards and for the SWAB as a quasi-governmental body, but private community organizations might be a little different.
Great, perfect. Yeah, and I think that if there is interest in the SWAB, we could also partner with the Borough President's Office for more events and do some of the, well, it's easier for the SWAB and CBs to collab. I think that's true too. I think we could work with on that. So there is another question. Let me pull it up. So the question was about budgeting for education and what DSMY is doing in addition to mailings and door hangers for the general public. What kind of outreach is being done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we didn't do door hangers, just to clarify. We did canvassing. We canvassed with all the departmental agency resources from the civilian bureaus that make up Department of Sanitation, as well as uniformed resources went into canvassing. households around the borough. We were able to door knock on we tried to, hit every single door in the borough through canvassing efforts. We also have a dedicated outreach team, the Bigger Use Outreach Associates. They work on the program, and they work on curbside composting in the city, directing folks to their outreach events that they have. So they have KC container distribution events, lawn and leaf bag distribution events, presentations. They go to environmental events and non-environmental events. They go to community events, is what I'm trying to say. We've also presented at every community board in Queens for the past 2 months. So that's been an approach of just trying to make sure the actual components of that make up the neighborhoods are all aware. We've been working with the Queens Botanical Garden on outreach in Eastern Queens. My daughter's trying to get into her bedroom, so if you start hearing her, I'm gonna have to leave the bedroom soon. And also we've been working with another vendor to do private canvassing, a private vendor to work on canvassing in parts of Queens as well. So that's probably I think the main, the broadest stroke that we've been trying to do is actually try to do in-person outreach to the public where they're at, so at their homes, and then outreach events, that are in high traffic or public areas, in addition to, the attending any and all meetings we can on the elected side for the community board and things like that.
Great, perfect, thank you. So I have Mary just entered into the chat. Do you have a sense of how many events elected officials have held that have brown bin giveaways?
I had it written down, but it's not total accurate. I think that we've had, let me look at my numbers. We've had about 4 or 5 events thus far, and we have another 3 or 4 coming up. And these have been brown bin giveaway events.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. Does anyone have a question that I missed? You're more than welcome to come off mute. Otherwise, we can move on to the next agenda item. Okay. Not seeing anyone.
This would be a
jump
great
at that,
time for me, so I won't miss bedtime. So I'll hop off here as well if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. This has been super helpful, and someone mentioned in the chat, and I agree that we love these updates. So having someone at future meetings is also something we would love.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Ryan, I'll follow up with you on the questions that I jotted down. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Have a good night, everyone. Bye, y'all.
Great. So I haven't admitted enough people to think that we have reached quorum. So I think we are still not at quorum. So if we want to move into committee reports, maybe Mary, if you want to start, I know your item did have something that we wanted to have a vote on, but maybe you can just go over some of the stuff that the legislative committee has been working on, and we can think about what we want to do for next steps.
Sure, I'd be glad to do that. Allison Allen is in this meeting today, and I'm really happy to see her. We did have a joint legislative committee meeting with the Brooklyn and Manhattan SWABs, and Rhonda Kaiser of the Brooklyn SWAB chaired that meeting. We talked about the value of holding joint meetings and decided to have the goal of having 1 per quarter. the other thing that came up is if there is no standing committee for a particular area in a SWAB, then, for example, I guess Manhattan has the only textile recycling committee. So the idea would be that those committee meetings could draw people who were interested from all the SWABs. So I think everyone thought that there was value in doing that. We talked about EPR and composting legislation and the actions that QSWAB in particular has taken to reach legislators. We also talked about sending out another email like the one Ryan did to Queens legislators in September and doing that again in October. I saw that great pumpkin flyer today that I guess Anita and had put up, perhaps the communications committee, and also maybe sending that out this month, and maybe November something about Thanksgiving. Alan sent a draft flyer and some palm cards, and Andrea and I worked on letters to the mayor and speaker as part of the legislative committee work, supporting composting at the request of council member Nurse. So we sent those drafts to Ryan. He sent them to the other SWAB chairs, and that's all being considered now. And we're waiting to see what comes back, and then whether there would be a meeting in the mines, or whether, there would be something that the QSWAB would do. I also wanted to report on a WebEx meeting of the Climate Justice Working Group last week. I'm doing this because in the past, the legislative committee under Richard Nunez Lawrence had prepared comments that were sent in on the, and Bilal Key also did this. We talked a lot about the disadvantaged communities, which is part of the Climate Leadership and Disadvantaged Communities Act implementation. So the Climate Justice Working Group met last week. DEC provides staff support to that group. The public could put comments in the chat but not participate. And they're still working on finalizing the DACs. And there's as yet no timetable for that, even though the air quality monitoring and the scoping through NYSERDA are proceeding, even in the absence of the final DACs. And there was comment from WEACT about, coming back with the scoping, and the, the disadvantaged communities work, so that there's the justice component really proceeds, in parallel, but it just does seem that there's like discontinuity right now. Anyway, that's my report. Does anyone have questions or comments?
Yes, Bilal.
Hi, Mary. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for your report. On the disadvantaged communities, I just want to circle back to that. I just want to be clear as to where they're at from last, from the public hearings that they had, the open testimonies that we submitted a testimony, and despite it being late, we're still able to. I know Ms. Scarborough submitted one on behalf of all the civics that she's able to connect with. So I know there were people that submitted to them in reference to recommendations in regards to the census tracts being corrected and being added on to the map. Was that information ever discussed at this meeting?
The comment period they made clear is over. We're not allowed to directly interact with this working group or with DEC about these deliberations. They did take into account for the air quality monitoring comments that people had made in Queens about the waste transfer stations and about the waste by rail. And also in the Bronx, there were comments about waste transfer stations affecting air quality. But, you know, it was left very vague. They got thousands of comments. They got, some of them were form comments. So most of them came as a result of, I believe it was 8 different letters. I took screenshots of some of the slides, which I would be glad to share with you. But I was kind of surprised at how, you know, it wasn't, there wasn't a clearer timetable. And I think some of the members of the working group also were bringing that up, you know, because things are moving along. There's implementation going on, but these communities are not finalized yet. So
yeah, and that was my concern too, because of the funding that's also tied to this, you know, to this working group and to what's coming down the pipe. So we want to make sure the communities get included so they can receive the funding. And, you know, I just, you know, we just want to make sure that that happens, you know, and don't want that to go underneath the radar.
Yeah, that was expressed by We Act and, you know, the concern that, you know, when is this going to be done? Like there was a sense of urgency from committee members and, but a sense of that every single comment that was going to make a difference would take 10 or 20 hours to process by the staff. They don't even have another meeting scheduled at this point.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mary?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with Bilal. I think this might be a perfect time to have someone from either DC or that committee join us. I know Bilal, you were speaking with someone who was interested in addressing our organization.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I think this would be a good time to do that invite because transparency is important. We know they may not have made any changes yet to the map to include testimony that was submitted, but we need to get a clear understanding as to exactly where they're at and to be sure that truly they will be looking at our testimony and looking at incorporating some of those areas that was pointed out. And I say that because currently when you look at the map, Upper Manhattan is well represented, so is Brooklyn, and so is the Bronx. It's Queens. Queens is the area that's been left out. In particular, you know, I can speak to Southeast Queens, definitely has been left out. And we're not at the table. When you look at who is on the committee, the representation, Queens is not represented. So I think it's important to have someone from the organization address us and we make our concerns, you know, heard and Claire, because we are fighting to make sure that the areas that need to be represented is truly represented, because this is about funding. And we also need to maybe also talk about transparency. Even when it's all said and done, and we know what the new and revised map looks like, the next step to all of that is the funding and transparency.
Just the fact that NYSERDA, I believe, they have a strict timetable for finalizing the scope of how it's going to be implemented. The only thing that this committee is working on, it's only, I say, is like who, who's in a disadvantaged community. And one of the things that I've just run into, and I brought this up, and then they said the comment period is over, is with permitting. You could have a new facility getting a permit for a polluting facility in an area that's not in a disadvantaged community, and therefore they could say, oh, well, no impact, right? It's pretty, it was pretty sobering to confront that for the first time, because it's a new transfer station. So I agree with you. I don't think that the people that spoke at DEC who are doing this, I don't think they would have too much that they could enlighten you about at this point. Just that way. But I think it's worth maybe going to the top of that organization and asking the hard question. I agree.
So, Bilal, who were you working with? Who was it that wanted to address our board?
The director of the Environmental Justice Committee for the DEC. Her name is Alana Kettle Tucky, Miss Tucky. She's the director of the Office of Environmental Justice for the DEC.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
If we could get someone also from the Climate Justice Group, that would, because they're
Right.
the ones that at this point.
I think that the representative from We Act, I don't know what their legal constraint might be, but if that person could come and participate in the meeting, because they were drilling in. I just feel like the staff people were not, they had a lot of discrete information that had not been, and no timetable for meeting.
Okay, so
Mhm.
so we can reach out to We Act and see what their constraints, what they can do, what they can't. You know what I'm saying? What they can't say, what they can say, and see if they would be interested in sending that representative or finding another representative from the Climate Justice Committee to actually committee to actually be here. But I can contact We Act, and I will still circle back with the director as well, just to cover those bases. But if anyone knows anyone else from that working group that we can contact, let me know.
Okay, or even with We Act telling us exactly who would be the best organization or person to
Yes.
And so, Mr. Chair, if you would allow that, that there be representation and they present to our board meeting. If not November, maybe December, it would be appreciated.
Yeah, I think we can definitely do that. And, my organization, NYCH2O, and I'm sure others as well, are a part of New York Renews. And so we've had members from the Climate Action Council, which is kind of the sibling organization of the Climate Justice Working Group. We've had folks come and talk to us about, the discussions. They're also all open meetings, so there's not really any private, well, I don't know. I'm sure that they could. I'm looking up the list now of the working group members. The other New York City ones, and if folks have contacts here, let us know. Otherwise, we can just kind of cold call, reach out. But there's the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance is there. We Act.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if Uprose is, because there's Push, but it's Push Buffalo, and then there's Uprose. And then Bilal, your contact with DEC is an agency, but she's listed as one of the members as well. So I think that's would be interesting to hear what she has to say. I think it would be great if we could get one of the organizational members, because I think that's often that's often who gives more openly answers. But I think that's definitely something we can have them talk to us.
Yeah, Ryan, I know Eddie Bautista from Environmental Justice Alliance, and I believe he sits on there for EJA.
That's who's listed. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want him, we could maybe do some type of generic letter, as long as I can do some outreach. But Bilal, you let me know, in terms of once you make your outreach, what you hear back.
Sure.
Ryan,
And
there's just one more thing, and it's about incineration. The subject came up and there was concern, I think it was from We Act, about that. And they said that the guy from NYSERDA was a little cagey. He didn't talk about any details. He says, well, we've had a presentation about that. But, once that would become part of their scope, I think it would be hard to dislodge, through legislation. It's like a regulatory, they've already done the legislation. Now they're drilling down into the regulation. So I think that's something that would be important to know, like, well, they had a presentation, what did it say?
Yeah. And at least, the representatives that I've heard from the Climate Action Council, who are not state employees, but who are organizational representatives, have been more, I don't know if candid is the right word, but they've talked about, what the discussions have been, what sticking points are, what the plan working forward is. They've also encouraged what would be helpful. I think part of it is New York Renews has a representative on the board, and obviously we don't, but I think if we are able to get some of these not institutional, but the civic groups, if we can get those folks to come, they might have ideas as well. We might look at the website and see there's no scheduled meeting next, but they might have thoughts on what would be helpful to push things forward, even without that meeting on the calendar. So I think that would be great. And if we have contacts at 2 of these organizations, trying to get at least someone to be able to come would be really great.
Okay.
I think we need to move on, but it sounds like we have an idea of how to move forward with that, and I think either November or December that would work for having someone come. Next, so I'll pass it over to Anita. Anita has updates for both the Communication and Education Committee. So I'll let you give those updates now.
Okay. So first, the Education Committee, last meeting, we had someone new join. She heard about it through the in-person event where Ryan was tabling at. So that was very exciting. And she was connected with 2 different gardens in Woodside, Sunnyside area. So we shared about, kind of different methods of education and, resource sharing. We then talked about short-term goals outlined by the planning committee or education committee, and we are reviewing it individually, but we'll collectively come up with responses within the next few weeks. We also thought about the ways to share more information more widely, with including the app next door and other websites. We can do it. Dan created a long list of different news articles regarding different waste related news, and specifically on the Queens curbside composting program, in which many of them I've put onto our website, so people can access it. But we want to kind of have a longer list in the future, so that people can refer to as like a resource and not necessarily just on news. And we are going to continue working closely with the communications committee to share what we create. And Madeline shared with us this map that's made of the food scrap drop-off sites in Queens, where they actually noted where the food scraps are going. So that was very interesting. She is going to get back to us on getting permission from the creator if we can use it as SWAB. Now onto the communications committee meeting. We spent a lot of time going through like different ways of sharing information that we've been doing, and kind of brainstorming about how to be more timely and inclusive of more events. I've updated several things on the website, so it's queensswab.nyc for folks who don't know or haven't visited in a while. So I've updated all the links so that it reflects the meeting, the correct Zoom links, so anybody who comes across our website can actually sign up. The YouTube channel, I've cleaned up any mistakes that kind of just popped up here and there, and then kind of edit the margins. So I want to ask anybody who's interested in helping with the website, not necessarily the technical aspect, but reviewing the information on the website, to pick up on any glaring mistakes, fact check any things, and just tell us what is missing, what will make this website a really great resource, something that can be used anytime that someone has any questions about the Queens and solid waste. So we'd like to invite you to just simply email anything, any suggestions you might have or questions, but also if you have the time, it'll be great if you can join the communications committee so that we can kind of work on it in real time. That'd be very helpful. And I think that's about it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Environmental justice, Bilal, I know you're meeting tomorrow. Do you want to give just a quick overview of what you all are planning to talk about tomorrow?
Yeah, so sure, no doubt. Good evening, everyone. Quick plug, tomorrow is the Environmental Justice Committee at 7 o'clock Eastern. We'll be meeting. There is, I'll put the link in for people to register to receive the Zoom link. We're going to be talking about one, which we just finished talking about, the disadvantaged communities. Obviously, we have homework to do and follow up to do with that, as we just discussed, in getting more information, getting a presenter in here to present to us what's the status of the disadvantaged communities working map from the working group. So that's an ongoing project. That's top of the list. Also, we want to establish some goals to support community-based waste reduction and environmental initiatives, and also continue advocating on coming up with ways for improved, advocate for improved environmentally just waste policies. So at some point, I do like what Mary also is doing with doing joint work with the other legislative committees. So we're going to be doing some research. Allison Allen mentioned that the Bronx also has a environmental justice committee. We want to link up with them as well. And any other SWAB that has a environmental justice committee, we want to link up with them as well, share ideas, share feedback, how we can support each other, and build from there. So come on out. Everyone is invited. Take some time out. Won't be a long meeting, but we want to establish some goals for the group for this year, fiscal year, based upon the waste report, what Ryan had sent out earlier. Towards the end of last fiscal year. We want to go through that document and grab some goals and establish them for the committee, and then talk about these other matters as mentioned. So come on out tomorrow at 7 p.m. Environmental Justice Committee. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And then I don't think that there's anything, the Solid Waste Planning Committee did not meet this month, so I don't think there's anything. Susan, if you do have something, let me know.
I do actually.
Oh, great.
Sorry,
Perfect.
I'm trying to, there we go. And I
No,
have a
no.
cat here who's really anxious to be part of this. I just was curious in terms of, so last month we agreed on a plan. We amended and then agreed on a plan for how to help roll out and publicize curbside composting. And I was just curious, I'm going to see if I can share my screen really quickly and just bring this document up. Hang on one second. Chauncey. Okay, let me share my screen. And can people see this document?
I cannot.
No.
Okay.
No.
Anyway, I emailed it out to everybody, sorry. I emailed it out to everybody and I was just curious if any of the committees had taken action on any of those items that were agreed upon. And so, for example, the executive committee was hoping to have a discussion with the Queensborough President's Office to get their media package, to connect SWAB with the Director of Nonprofit Relationships, it looks like we have a DSNY liaison for SWAB, and identify other ways that we can partner with the Queensborough President's Office. So I don't know if any of that was, I'm just curious because of course we have a plan that we had agreed to. And the only way it happens by each of the committees. And so I'm just curious to know if there's been any of those actions that have taken place.
I think the legislative committee did everything we were supposed to do.
That would provide the flyer to all electeds, monitor the legislation and keep us apprised, work in coalition with other SWABs on advocacy, which you just reported on, work with electeds at events with bin giveaways, etc. Great. And then there was the education committee was going to try to hold educational presentations at meetings of all of the community boards in Queens by asking the community board members of SWAB to share information. And I just heard, we just talked about nextdoor.com, which is great. And then the communication committee was posting information on our website, sharing on social media. I know we've all been doing that, sharing information with our networks and outreaching at in-person events in collaboration with other organizations. And I think I heard that that's happening as well. So that's great. And because of course a plan is only as good as its execution. So I just wanted to ask where we were on some of those things. We did not meet this month to discuss anything else, and we will be meeting on November 10th. And that's it for my report.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we can double check and see what's on the list for the executive committee to make sure we're covering all those. It sounded like in our presentation tonight that DSMY has reached all of the community boards. I know that was a question that we had about whether whether a role for us was to help connect folks, but if all of them have been reached and we can follow up with our community board reps and make sure that that's happened and that it was attended or if they need help with other things. Great. So really quickly for old business stuff, you know, our committees are up and running. We have all of the dates in the agenda with yes, Emily. We have all the dates and the registration link in the agenda, and we can send those out once we get into November. Everyone should be on a committee and participating as much as you're able to. And then the bylaws committee is also in progress. Yes, we're working on that, and we'll hopefully have something for November. For new business, I know Anita had something quick before we reach 8, so I'll turn it over. And if other folks have new business, let me know.
So in a 350 NYC newsletter, I saw there was a conversation about anti-idling bills, and it's the intro 0606 and intro 0684. So you can check that, see if your representatives are supporting it, and if not, contact them about it.
Excuse me, you said it's the idling bill?
Yeah, anti-idling bill. So
Anti-idling.
yeah.
Okay. Have you read it, or we need to go look at it and see?
It's not very fresh in my mind, but I think it was
Okay.
the one about no idling in front of schools and parks.
Okay.
Yes, but I encourage everyone to read it in detail.
Yeah. All righty.
Great. Perfect. Are there other items of new business that anyone has? Yes, the question about bylaws meetings, we're scheduling the next meeting, and I can send that out if folks are interested.
Because I haven't received any correspondence in regards to that at all. I got one phone call if I was interested, and I haven't heard anything else since.
Yeah, I can follow up with them. Perfect. Not seeing anything else. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
And I will second Reverend Thorpe's motion, Susan Latham.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
And any opposed? Great. Thank you, everyone. This was a great meeting.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone. Stay safe. You're welcome.